So now there's 4 areas that patients will drop out. So let's take a look at this and go, there's 4 common areas where patients will drop out. Number 1 is day 1. So here's day 1. So what we do is we look at where did patients drop out? That tells us a lot. So we can see exactly where the problem is. And once we identify the problem, then we can go right into exactly where the problem is. We can train out that weakness. We can train out that problem. That's how specific we can get. So, and this is how we do it. So you go, okay, we got our 1 through 50, and then we mark the last day that we saw them. So here on day 1, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so he's losing 5. So he's losing 10% on day 1. Okay, so you go to day 2. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's losing 6. Now that's more than 12% because we've already lost. So it's out of 45. So he's already lost 5. So if you looked at 45, so if you go, he's lost 6 divided by 45. So that's 13%. 13% on day 2. Then you go here, day 3. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's go up here, day 4, 1. And then come over here, you got day 1, 2, 3. And let's go here, you go 1, 2. Okay, so he's got 2 here. And then he's got 1 here. So you can see they start to diminish off and how he loses patience. Okay, so and then you just, I got a few. Let's just come over here and go. Okay, so down here, he's got some scattered after, what is that? 9. So only 2. So that's not going to be a big deal. Now, here's how to evaluate it. This is exactly how to find the problem. Now, there's 4 areas that patients will drop out of care. 4. Number 1 is day 1. And all 4 of them are for a different reason. So I'm going to show you how to find the problem. Then we're going to go into how to solve the problem. That's what we're going to do right now. So we listed the patients. We see his trend line. We see his dropout rate. And now we know which day he's losing them the most. Well, on a percentage basis, day 2. But obviously day 1 and 2. So he's losing 11 patients on the first 2 days, which is 11 patients, which is 22%. 22%. Okay. And then if you go, you can see here he stops around the 6th visit. Let's say the 7th because he's got 1 more, but it drops off really after, you can see here 3. So if you said 6, he's got 1 more here at 7, but let's just say 6. So in the first 6 visits, so you got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 21 patients have dropped out. That's 21, that's 42%. So he's losing 42% of his business in the first 6 visits. Okay. Now, so this is how I'm going to share with you first how to find the problem, then how to interpret the problem, and then how to fix the problem. But this is unbelievably specific, is what I'm getting ready to go into. So we took our sample size of 50. We listed 1 through 20 where they're dropping out. And we can see here where they're dropping out, which day. Now, that's not precise enough. We're going to be more precise than that. So patients drop out typically in one of 4 areas. Number 1 is day 1. What's the number 1 reason they will drop out on day 1? You have not established need. In other words, they had enough need to spend the time or money to come to day 1. but they didn't for day 2. So the number one reason you didn't get them to day 2 is you didn't establish need, or the second reason, you did a paradigm shift. And that's real common with subluxation doctors when patients come in with back pain, and real quickly the doctor's talking about asthma, allergy, and bedwetting. That's called a paradigm shift. And that increases the defenses and resistance, and it decreases the trust and confidence real fast. And you got to remember, this is early in the relationship. It's day 1 or 2. Okay, so having said that, the second place that they'll drop out typically is the report of findings. So it looks like he's doing his report of findings on day 2. You're doing your report of findings on day 2, right?
Yes.
Now, the reason they'll drop out on day 2 is they had enough need. They had enough need to come in for day 1. They had enough need to come in for day 2. Well, what's happening different on day 2? If you're doing the report of findings on day 2, you're magnifying the 2 obstacles of time or money. So which obstacle is most important that they'll drop out on, or you need to handle the best? Money. So the number one reason they'll drop out here is the doctor did not know how to handle terms with money. In other words, the obstacles were too big relative to the perceived need. So it's always a combination. It's always a combination. But on this particular, remember, it's not need right now. Need is not the number one reason because it's day 2. They had enough need to come in for day 2. So it's money relative to need. So it's like a 1-2 punch with money. In other words, the doctor didn't know how to talk terms to make it affordable relative to the patient's perceived need. That's what happened there. Now, when you see patients drop out past that, like let's see if you see him drop out around the like 8 to 12 visit mark over here. Now, that's not what's happening with him. He's not seeing a cluster of patients drop out here. If they are, if you see a large section there, that's symptom care. They just came in for symptom care. They're not buying into what you're saying. They're staying for a few visits. They're feeling better and they're leaving. So whatever system you're using, whatever patient education you're using, it's just not even working. Now, the fourth area that they'll drop out, and we don't track that, is above 20. And the reason we don't track it here on this analysis is if you're keeping your patients, the vast majority of them past the 20 visit, you've got a very good practice. Like I said, you're seeing over 150, 200 visits a week. Now, when we do this analysis, like after you're real good at keeping patients, then you want to learn what's called the lifestyle patient education. So the first education to learn is to get them to not give you their system. Their system is market forces. They don't want to come and pay. So the first system is get them to accept, understand, and pay for what's called functional capacity care. Or in our case, it's for all 3 phases of healing: the inflammatory phase, the repair phase, and the remodel phase. That makes a lot of sense to patients, by the way. And then we make it affordable. We know how to talk terms to make it affordable where they go, yeah. That's how we easily keep patients past 20 visits. By the way, the national average is 18. And it's based on the patient's biomarkers. Okay, so now after they get through that, well, they quit unless you have another system in place. And you never want to use chiropractic maintenance care. And the reason you never want to use it is only 3% of the population accepts chiropractic maintenance care. So you have a 97% chance of losing. In other words, would you pick a system where you had a 97% chance of loss? That wouldn't be smart. That would not be smart at all. So we do what's called the lifestyle system. And it's like I said, there's a carrot, there's a stick, there's guidelines, and there's checks. But there's a different focus than their particular problem they came in with right now. And I'm not going to get into lifestyle right now. But that's how you keep patients long-term. We buy lifestyle products all the time. I buy toothpaste all the time. Nobody has to tell me to buy toothpaste. I already know the value system. I bought into it. Okay. So we buy lifestyle products all the time. Okay. So let's get back to here. So you go, okay, now we know. So now we know, here's where the focus of the real, so he's got a big problem in that 42% of the patients are leaving. He's almost losing half of his business, his new business in 6 visits. That's not good. Okay. So where you go, well, where would you start? Well, obviously he doesn't have a good system, or if he does, he's not good at it. 42% is not good. And then you go, well, what's normal? Well, you should only lose 2 to 3% per day that it involves time or money. Day 1 involves time or money. Day 2 involves time or money. See, so the most you should lose is 3% in any one of the days that involve the obstacles, time or money. So on day 1, the most he should lose is 3%. He's losing 10. Day 2 is 3%. He's losing 13. So he's losing 22% versus the most it should be is 6%. But it's a little more than that, because 6% from 22 is 12, 30, 40, 16%. So he will easily have a 16% increase just by knowing how to deal with these 2 days. But that's not really the problem here, because he's losing almost half of his business in 6 visits. So now how would I find the specific problem? Well, right now we know what days are causing the problem. So we know he's not establishing need to a large degree on day 1. He's not handling obstacles on day 2. But what do we really know? They're not buying into a system. Whatever he's doing, they're not buying into, they're leaving. The ones that are staying for symptom care are leaving by the 6th visit. So he doesn't have either he doesn't have a good system or he's not good at it, one or the other. Now, how do I know where the real problem is? So I know day 1 or day 2. So this is how you find out the specific day. But then what we'll even do is we'll do recordings. We'll have the doctor record his day 1 interaction. We'll have him record his day 2 interaction. And now we can get unbelievably precise, because let me just give an example. Let's say on day 1, there were 10 specific categories that you needed to cover in that order, based on how we buy products and services. And yes, there is a formula of how we buy products and services. Yes, there is. Okay. Well, when we listen to the recording, we can go, well, he did 1, 2, and 3, fine. That's not the problem. And let's say he did 7, 8, 9, and 10, fine. That's not the problem. But when we listen to the recording, we go, wait a minute, 5 and 6 is where he blew it. So then this is how you get very specific to find the problem. First, you got to know what I just shared with you, how to, what's considered normal, and then what days are what happens per day. And then you have to know the category per day that should be happening based on reverse engineering of how we buy products and services. So I listen to the recording and I go, oh, he missed, or he really did a bad job handling the 5th and 6th topic of that day. And that's where he blew it. That's where he lost them. So that's how precise, that's how unbelievably precise we can get with finding the problem. Now comes the second part. How do you solve it? Well, this is how we solve it fast. This is how we find it fast. This is how we solve it fast. And this is why 92% of our doctors that use our patient education program increase their business over $100,000 in 90 days. This is exactly how and why. So what we do, so now we've isolated, we go, okay, let's just say for an example, it's day 1, okay? And it's category 5 and 6, all right? Then what we do is we make sure the doctor understands, make sure he sees it and understands, because if you can't see it and understand the mistake, you're just going to keep doing it over and over anyway. So first the doctor has to see it. Then we'll explain what should have happened. And he goes, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. But now the doctor has to go through 4 stages of training. Remember, there's 4 stages of training. There's unconscious incompetence, to conscious incompetence, to conscious competence, to unconscious competence. So the first thing that we've got to do is get the doctor to go from unconscious incompetence, what he doesn't even know that's hurting him, to conscious incompetence. We go, this is the mistake you made. Can you see why you made it? That's conscious incompetence, but that's still not going to fix the problem. Then we got to go to conscious competence to where he actually can do it at a decent level, where it's not failure, but he's not like great at it. Well, how does that work? That takes role playing. That's where you have to do role playing. You have to engage sensory and motor to go from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. That's what's required. You cannot just watch a video. You have to do sensory and motor. And it's got to be repetitious. And by the way, this is how habits are formed. You know, habits are formed by doing a particular activity over 21 days. That's what creates the neural filament. We already know that. So now we do high repetition. And in this case, if it's something real small, we'll break it into something real small and go, okay, let's do 5. Let's not worry about 6. Let's do 5. And let's repeat it. So I may have the doctor do it 20 times, 3 days in a row. See, that works it out of him. That gets him to own that little category fast. You have to do sensory and motor. You have to. By the way, this is how you train staff too. This is how you train, period. So sensory and motor takes you to conscious competence, but we need to be at unconscious competence. We need to be where you just know it by the back of your hand. And that's repetition. So when you do repetition over time by monitoring, that's what takes that skill level to unconscious competence. Well, when you do that, you own it. That's how that's eliminated. So this is how we find the problem. We went to the stats. We found out exactly where this doctor's at. We go, okay, he's got a problem. He definitely has a problem on day 1 and 2, 22% versus 6%. So that could increase 16%. Now, he would be doing a lot better in practice if he wasn't losing this 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, this other 20%, see? But we go, wait a minute. He not only has a little problem at day 1 and a problem at day 2, establishing need and money, they're not even buying into his system. He's losing almost half of his patients, 42% of his patients in the first 6 visits. So with this doctor, I don't even want to use his system. He's got a bad. Now it could be his system's good. He's just bad at it. That's possible. So we'd have to just listen. But I know we got a bad system right now. It's not even working. And the reason I also know that is when we do our patient education and it's based on the science of the 3 phases of healing, even when the doctor's not even good at it, he doesn't even have a good skill level, you will not see this drop out. It makes too much sense to the patient, number 1, and we make it affordable, number 2. It's too easy for the patient to say yes, even when you have low skill levels. You're not a good communicator, you don't deliver it very well, et cetera, et cetera. The concepts are too powerful and they're too personal to the patient because the concepts have nothing to do with chiropractic. They're all based on the patient. The science of the 3 phases of healing is based on the patient, not chiropractic. That's why it works so well. So even if you're not even good at it, you wouldn't even see this. You wouldn't see 42% dropout in the first 6 visits. Okay, so that's how we would analyze this practice. And then you could go, well, how much money are we talking about? Well, a real easy way to think of it is go, take your last year's collections. He's losing 42%, multiply 42%, and that's easily how much money you're losing. So if you collected $300,000, you're losing 42,000 per 100,000. 3 times 42, 4, 8, 12. He's losing over 120 some $1,000 by losing 42% of his practice. That's how much money he's losing. And that's not including getting new patients. In other words, he already has it. It's like money in his hand. It's just going right through his hand. So he's losing $120,000 easily that he has in his hand. It's going right through his hand. Well, we got to stop that. And when you learn how to do that, that's when you start keeping patients. You get busier. Well, of course, your cash flow goes up. And then you'll max out. And that's the goal, is to maximize your exchange of time for money. That's the first goal.